I will start in English, but I will quickly switch in French, and I will use an AI to translate it into English. It will be much easier for me.
For the seasonal tune-up, you're going to need 2 Allen keys, one standard-sized Allen key and one much smaller Allen key for finer adjustments. Both of these keys are kept in the service box we have. Alongside these, make sure you have 2 brass adjustment rings. It's very important that they're brass, not any other metal. You'll also require a roll of tape, a small precise screwdriver, and a sharp tool, like a knife, to aid certain tasks. Towards the end of the process, you'll definitely need a can of WD-40 grease that contains PTFE. I'll provide you with the exact product details later on. Oh, and don't forget to have some paper towels handy as well to clean up any mess. To explain how the SkiMojo leg works, here's one of the legs. Inside there's a plastic leg, and I'm using a transparent model so you can clearly see how everything fits and operates inside. You'll notice a spring, an activation button, and a cable that runs through the leg. This cable goes through a small pulley and then loops back, attaching here at the back. When the SkiMojo isn't activated, the cable shifts around but doesn't actually engage or compress the spring. But once you activate the SkiMojo, the spring is engaged and works as intended, providing that responsive motion. Usually Marila's legs are transparent like this, so it's easier to demonstrate and understand the internal mechanics. The cable inside can unfortunately break after a certain number of uses or cycles, and it usually snaps at the same spot every time. Right here, exactly where it bends regularly with each movement, which causes wear and tear over time. So, the main reason for this tune-up is to replace that cable you see there. Another important task is swapping out the adjustment ring. Right here you've got an adjustment ring, which shows up more clearly on a black leg. The one currently on there is made of aluminum, but we're going to replace it with a much stronger brass ring. This brass ring is more durable and less likely to wear out quickly. Usually what happens is when the cable breaks, when you bend an inactive leg, it stays bent without resistance. But a leg with a working cable springs back straight as soon as you release it. When you get a SkiMojo, start with a careful visual inspection. Check the neoprene covering, seams, and stitching. If you see wear or damage, suggest replacement to your client for best performance. Also, inspect the harness for any signs of wear. Next, note the current SkiMojo settings to see how the client has it adjusted. Look at the bottom rod, set at 3, then the top rod, also set at 3. Recording these settings is important before any adjustments or maintenance. For the spring setup, we start by opening the SkiMojo and resetting the spring tension using the Allen key. Turn it clockwise slowly, counting each turn until it locks firmly. Let's count together. 1, 2, 3, 4 turns. Now it's locked tight. We note the setting, 3 on the top rod, 3 on the bottom, and spring tension at about 4 turns. Then we repeat the same on the other leg to ensure both legs are perfectly calibrated. Now we're going to take the SkiMojo out of its neoprene sheath, so we open the clip and pull out the rod. We do the same at the bottom as before. Open the clip slowly, then gently pull out the rod. While removing it, check carefully to make sure it slides smoothly without sticking. If it feels stiff or stuck, the rod needs replacing, which isn't part of the standard service. Next, we carefully lift the stapled clips, avoiding any bending or damage, and set them aside neatly. This ensures the lower parts are in good shape before continuing with the next steps. Let's carefully check these clips now. If this part right here is aluminum, we'll definitely keep them, but if it's plastic, we'll need to replace them. Keep in mind, aluminum clips have small grooves inside them, whereas the plastic ones don't have these grooves at all. This little detail helps us determine which clips we can reuse and which ones we cannot. Check the clip by touch or visually to see if it's aluminum. Aluminum clips are durable and reusable. If it's plastic, it must be replaced, which is included in the service. Then carefully pull the leg out of the neoprene to free the knee. Next, we'll lift it up Like this, gently grab the leg and carefully pull it out of the neoprene material to free the knee properly. So now we're going to change the cable on this leg carefully. First, we've set the spring tension to 0 to make sure everything is relaxed. Next, we'll remove the switch. To do this, we'll use an Allen key to gently push out the pin that holds everything in place. The pin should come out the other side smoothly. Sometimes this pin is bent or damaged, and in those cases it needs to be replaced. You'll find a new pin in the service box for replacements. If the pin is bent, it can be more difficult to take out, so you might need to use a hammer carefully to get it free. Once the pin is completely out, the next step is to fold the leg down so we can access the cable properly. And we'll just push. Next, gently push the activation button fully out, then carefully remove the small grabber piece from the mechanism. So the grabber has two sides, one with small springs, which you can see. I'll switch to a white background, a side with small springs, and the other side with a diaphragm. When we put the grabber back, we always position the diaphragm side down. Once these two parts are removed, if we flip the leg over, we can carefully take out the Skimo-Joe spring now, moving slowly so we don't damage anything. After removing the activation button, here's a leg with a broken cable that doesn't spring back. Next, I'll carefully remove the central pivot using a sharp tool, making sure not to hurt myself, to take out the small circlip holding it in place. This circlip secures the pivot, so removing it lets us continue disassembling. So I take out this small piece here that will let me take out the central pivot, which allows. Okay, so first I need to separate the top part of the leg from the bottom part. Right here you can clearly see the cable is broken. It snapped exactly at this point. If it hadn't snapped, the cable would have continued running all the way up here. Now once I've removed the central pivot, the next step involves taking out these two ball bearings located right here. To do that, I'll be using a specialized round tool to carefully remove them without causing any damage. This process needs to be precise because these parts are crucial for proper assembly later on. These two ball bearings here have gotten pretty dirty with grease and grime over time. Because of that, I always use a small towel to carefully clean them off. It helps make sure they work smoothly and don't cause any issues later on. Before reusing these parts later on, it's important to ensure they're thoroughly cleaned. You can see it leaves a bit of black residue, which is basically some old lubricant mixed with dirt. Once I carefully remove the central pivot, you'll notice you can grab the pulley easily. So similarly, I'll take the time to clean the pulley thoroughly as well, making sure to remove any grime or buildup that could affect its performance. To see if I can reuse it, I carefully check its shape to make sure it's perfectly round without any scratches or marks. This particular one still looks good and clean, so no issues here. Next, I will unscrew the cable piece gently, taking care not to damage anything so that I can remove it easily and proceed to the next step. Here I'm placing this old broken cable next to the new one for comparison. And finally, I'll remove this label. While recovering, the little bolt is hidden right behind it. I'm going to try really hard to keep that label intact, but if it ends up getting damaged, I'll have to use some tape to replace it to keep everything clear. Now I'll clean the bottom part of my leg, and after that I plan to move on to my upper leg and clean that thoroughly as well. I'll check everything carefully to make sure there are no cracks or damage. If any parts are broken, they must be replaced. Next, I'll change this ring using a tiny Allen key that fits the adjustment screws perfectly. And I'll unscrew the adjustment pin. Right at this exact point here, I carefully remove a very small part from the mechanism to ensure everything fits perfectly. That looks like this. If you ever lose it, there are others in the service box.
And once I've taken out this piece, I can remove
the adjustment ring. This is the old part of the mechanism. Now, if it's made of brass, which is a bit heavier, you can definitely reuse it without any issues. However, if it's aluminum, that light gray or stainless colored metal, you'll actually need to replace it with a new one. Fortunately, this piece here is brass, so I'm going to reuse it. I carefully place it back inside, make sure it's set to the minimum, and then I gently tilt it as I continue. Inside. I make sure I rotate it down. I'll wait until I can clearly see inside the mechanism here, specifically the exact position of the adjustment pin, and then I'll carefully put it back in place.
I'm using my small Allen key now. You need to find the right way to turn it so it fits and won't slip.
And it dropped.
So I'm going to screw it back in. There you go. Once it's screwed in tight, even if I turn the leg upside down, it won't fall out. This here is a brand new cable, and this one over here is broken. On the old cable, we need to make sure to save the return spring carefully. And this little plastic piece here, we're going to carefully put the return spring back onto it. And the black plastic piece onto the ski on the new cable. Now this cable is ready to be installed in the Ski Mojo. Now we'll carefully install the new cable into the leg assembly. First, ensure the aluminum adjustment ring is in place. Grab the cable with the return spring and small black bitonio attached. Make sure everything's aligned before moving on. We'll insert the cable from the top and thread it carefully through the hole in the ring. You have to aim really carefully because it's important the cable passes through cleanly without any snags or catches along the way. Spring here. First, check the cable to ensure it's properly tensioned and pulled back by the return spring. Then take the lower leg already cleaned along with the pulley. We'll feed the cable through the setup, placing parts like this. Slowly thread the cable carefully, making sure it aligns correctly with all components. Through the lower leg's opening. Carefully grab the pulley and slide it in from the top. Make sure it fits properly because any other way won't work. You can see we slide the cable in here, but always start from this exact spot. If we try to push it in here, it won't fit. So always from the top and slide it in here. Now we'll flip the whole system over carefully. Here's the pulley, lower leg, upper leg, and cable. Next, I'll grab 2 ball bearings and insert them right here. To do this safely and avoid injury, I'll use a round tool to press them in, protecting my fingers and the parts. It's a simple, effective method to keep the assembly smooth. And I'll use it to push the pulley to the center like this. Next, I'll carefully grab a single ball bearing, then slide it into this small slot right here. Using my thumb, I'll gently push and twist it around, making sure to rotate and push with steady pressure to get it properly seated inside so it fits perfectly without damaging anything. And find the right spot to push it all the way in carefully. Once the first one's in place securely, the second goes in smooth, and I make sure both are positioned on each side. Then I place the leg. I'm grabbing my cable just like this, you see? My brand new cable is sticking out a little bit here, right? Now I'm going to put the central pivot inside it. Now I will put the sear clip with nails. Now my leg smoothly slides into place and I can distinctly feel the return cable inside. The final step here is to carefully position the cable, making sure to feed it in securely without causing any issues or snags along the way. Until it sticks out here. I'll take this bolt that I'm going to place there, and I'll start screwing to the right. Sometimes you can actually speed up the process using your hands, working carefully until the cable shows up. And you can see it clearly now. The cable is actually starting to come through right from underneath here. At the same time, I can confidently confirm that my leg is working exactly as it should, moving smoothly without any issues at all, just like we expected. Now let's reinstall the spring. Deep inside. We'll carefully install the grabber, making sure the diaphragm is always facing downward for proper positioning. Let's take the activation button and push it all the way in. There shouldn't be any gap here. You can see a small space, but ideally, nothing should remain between the parts. To fix this, we can use the table edge to push it firmly, ensuring everything is tight and aligned. And we'll make sure to keep the Mojo, that special ski Mojo, activated and working perfectly. Meanwhile, I'll go ahead and grab a new cotter pin from my service box right now so that we have it ready for installation. That I'm going to install, and in pushing the button, I'll put the cotter pin back inside. There, so I make sure the pin doesn't stick out on one side. Or the other side, you know. Now, in theory, my leg should work perfectly fine without any issues at all. There's a bit of adjustment to be made here right now. So the cable is installed properly. And if you take a closer look, you can see the leg mechanism can activate and deactivate smoothly. However, when it's activated, there's quite a bit of slack present, which isn't ideal. The cable even sticks out noticeably here next to the joint. So it's clear that the cable needs tightening to ensure everything works properly. So, keeping my Ski Mojo activated for now,
I'm going to turn it a few times.
to tighten the cable a little more.
I still have some play left in the system, which is quite common at this stage. When I say play, I mean a little bit of slack or looseness that you can feel if you move the parts around gently. Now, as you can hear and see, if I try to move it again with the Ski Mojo deactivated, there really is no play at all. Everything is tight and in place exactly as it should be. However, if I decide to deactivate the Ski Mojo, which is a feature that allows us to control the movement more precisely, you'll notice that the play disappears entirely, meaning the cable is fully taut and ready for operation.
And want to activate it, then it activates as expected. But if I over-tighten the cable, it can cause issues with the mechanism's proper function. If the cable is too tight, the Ski Mojo won't activate at all right now, so you'll need to loosen it just a bit, not too much, but just enough to get it working properly.
Adjust the cable.
To find the right balance.
So there's just a tiny bit of slack in the cable for the Ski Mojo to activate, right?
And deactivates easily. Make sure there's not too much play in the mechanism to avoid looseness. It all hinges on this bolt here. Once you find the right setting and confirm everything moves smoothly without resistance, the Ski Mojo will activate and deactivate easily and precisely. You tighten the final bolt, either by reusing the original label, but as you can see, it doesn't hold securely anymore, or by using some tape. It's been quite a while since this tape was used. I see cuts and tears, so we'll fix it either by reusing tape or using a new piece. That we will either place like this or directly. Make sure it's tightly fixed on the bolt so it can never turn or loosen from any vibrations or shaking, no matter what. Now what we're going to do is apply some grease carefully onto the cable to make it much stronger and more durable over time. So first I'll take my leg and bend it gently just like this. And keep it bent. I'm going to grab my WD-40 spray.
And I'll spray a little here.
Now I'll open the leg. I'm going to grab it in the middle. I'm going to position the ring right in the middle on the cable, and then I'll spray again to make sure everything is properly coated. Now I'll do several movements to spread the grease on the cable. Alright, we'll now carefully put the leg back into the plastic part. First I need to grab the leg properly. I'll insert it from the top, making sure it's perfectly aligned before gently pushing it all the way through, until it comes out the other side. I grab it in the middle and I fold the leg so it sticks out just a little bit at the bottom. That way I can easily grip it and work with it smoothly. Slide it back through. At the very top here, I have my leg carefully placed inside its plastic casing part. Now I'm taking my tightening clips and I'll staple them at the bottom. Stapled like this. Now I'm at the bottom, so I take my lower rods, which I will carefully pass first right through the ring, then into the leg, and I close it. When I close it, I carefully check exactly how much force I actually need to close it properly. The butterfly, if it's too weak. On the other side, there's a small adjustment screw. I open the butterfly, turn the screw slightly, then check how it feels. I turn it a quarter of a turn and close the butterfly valve, but I can already tell that's not quite enough yet. I turn it another quarter. Then I gently close the butterfly valve, making sure it's tight enough so the rod doesn't slam or cause problems. Now we just did that for the bottom rod. We'll do the same for the top rod. I put back clip. I take the top rod. So what I do first, I carefully pass it through the ring, making sure it slides nicely, and then I proceed to close it securely. And I close it. And here again, I noticed it wasn't tight enough at all, so I carefully give it a firm turn with the wrench. To make sure it's firmly closed, I always double check to ensure the butterfly valve is facing outside properly, just as it should be. Now it's in the right spot. If I'd put it the other way around, of course, opening and closing the mechanism is obviously more delicate since it's all positioned right behind. So in order to work correctly, we always put it the right way, with the butterfly valve facing outward as a standard. Are much more delicate because it's behind, so we put it the right way. I position the butterfly so it's facing outward clearly. After that, I carefully check the settings on the device. Initially, the client had sent us the Ski Mojo set at level 3, so I make sure to reset it back to 3 exactly, then I close it carefully. I also double check at the bottom to ensure it's also set to 3 just like it was originally configured. Then, once that's done, I adjust the spring tension carefully When the Ski Mojo first arrived, it was originally set at 4, so I make sure to set it back to 4 carefully and precisely. Then I start the count. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there you go. The first leg is completely folded just like this, all ready to go properly. And it's ready to be sent to the customer. I carefully inspect the harness from top to bottom, checking for any tears, rips, or signs of wear that might cause issues later. I make sure the belly buckle works properly, and I make sure that the clips on the sides. The belt is definitely in good shape. I always take my time to check it carefully, making sure there are absolutely no tears, damages, or wear. I pay special attention to these spots here and here because that's where it usually tends to get a bit worn out over time. And on the strap.